What's up, guys? Coach Gaglione here. This is a little bit of a bonus episode, just showcasing some of our family's lifting accomplishments and training over the last several weeks. So this is kind of like an important thing, I think, when it comes to some goals for youth lifting. Ultimately, we want to be able to get our family, get our kids to be able to have the ability to walk into any kind of gym setting and be able to kind of get an effective workout and effective training stimulus. So on this particular day, Lena went with mom to Everyone Fitness, which is a local commercial gym, which has got a lot of great equipment, and they got to kind of do their training on their own. Had some girl time, some mom time, and she was able to execute her lifts without me being there, which is great. And she's also been kind of tracking her workouts on Turnkey Coach, which has been fantastic. So she's learning some skills, learning how to keep fitness as part of her life, even independently, which is great. So in the case of youth, when it comes to the competition setting, I just try to keep things very modest and just kind of keep chipping away. If you've been following Brynn for a while, her first meet she did 70 pounds, and then most recently, back in February, she did 120 pounds, and she's getting ready for her first full power meet. She's almost a week out at this point. She's got one more training session left at the time of this recording, and we'll kind of potentially do a recap. I don't know if it'll be long form, but certainly it'll be on Instagram or somewhere. So a lot of the training is very it could be monotonous, like on paper, where we're just kind of adding 5 pounds here, 2 pounds there. Sometimes we're adding a rep or two. We're just trying to make sure we're kind of teaching the fundamental movement patterns. There's not much variety for the main movements. And then if they want to do some accessory work, if they want to do other stuff, if they want to do some abs, if they want to do some sled work, if they want to do some jumps. I do think there's a lot of value in exposing younger athletes to a variety of different movements and skills and abilities. And especially when it comes to, like, you could see, like, Brynn's able to get in a really good position for her sumo deadlift, and so keeping that mobility when you're younger is important, because I think especially when it comes to flexibility training. And it's not to say I'm not a flexibility or mobility expert by any means, but it's one of those things where if you use certain ranges of motion, like I said, whether it be a deep squat or a good position on the sumo deadlift, she was excited there. So I'm really kind of treating these more as like skills for her. And I'm not really worried about her, training to failure and things of that nature. Again, when they start to kind of hit puberty and they want to kind of build some muscle, then that becomes more of a factor when it comes to the accessory training. When it comes to the barbell training, I think we could all kind of take note of this. I think it's actually more important to
hold it.
Just make sure that the skill is there. So that was kind of like a tough rep for her. But she's getting better and better. She's almost at the adult size bar for benching, which is very exciting. But she's getting very comfortable with anything that's around 15 kilos. Anything more is a little bit challenging, which is good. And I believe at the Youth Nationals, I think she'll be able to take smaller increments in jump. I'll have to kind of check the rule book there, because if you are, even for adult females and even for some men, a 2.5 kilo jump on a bench press sometimes is just not manageable. So sometimes you have to kind of artificially go like lighter, or use different bars and stuff like that. But she's been hitting the 15 kilo bar very comfortably, and she's closing in on being able to use a 20 kilo bar, which is fantastic. So yeah, I think it's important that they challenge themselves and learn to kind of deal with some adversity and have some hard workouts in there. But for the most part, we want to kind of build off success. And make sure that they're kind of comfortable. When it comes to squatting, especially, squatting was actually the lift that I taught Brynn the last in the rotation. She did deadlifts first, then bench press, curls, and squats for less. There's a big balance component with squats, and a little bit more. I think when it comes to younger kids, especially, I think there's a little bit more fear and danger with squatting, mainly because of the balance. But you can kind of see here that Brynn is starting to get very controlled. She's understanding kind of her where her body is in space, and that's been super beneficial for her. So she's been doing really well. I think on this particular day we just used like an adult squat bar, but we had her do more training with the power bar, because the meet she's doing is going to be on a power bar. But we don't really kind of sweat the small stuff with that. If it's a stiff bar, if it's a deadlift bar, if it's a power bar, the most important thing is that she's kind of getting comfortable with the form. And as far as whatever barbell is available, we try not to sweat that stuff. If it's kilos, if it's pounds, not a huge deal. I will say though, when it comes to youth athletes, being consistent with the weights you're using, because if you're not using calibrated pounds, having the plates be off a few pounds could certainly make a difference when it comes to just kind of knowing what's on the bar and knowing if they're kind of making progress. So that's something to consider. Again, I don't think you have to have calibrated plates when you're 9 years old, but it is important. If you are going to use fractional plates, it is kind of good to kind of know what they actually weigh and those sorts of things. So just something to keep in mind if you do have some plates that are kind of off. If the plates are off by a few pounds, and you're trying to like load something very precise, that could be, something potentially to look out for if you are, instructing youth or masters athletes that need to take smaller increments than, 5 pounds. So, and typically what we'll do in terms of a setup, we'll usually do like a bunch of just like working sets where we're just kind of using a static weight, and then we might do an AMRAP here and there just kind of practice kind of pushing like a little bit more, closer to failure. But again, most of the work is just going to be straight sets and kind of leaving a lot of reps in the tank so that they can really focus on the skill of lifting. And as you can kind of see here, there's this, again, we're deadlifting, we're benching, we're squatting. And as far as like what I like to do when starting out kids, just 1 or 2 days a week is plenty. Typically we'll do full body. And if they want to do more, that's great. Again, if they want to do extra after their meat and potatoes is done, then they could have some dessert. But essentially we'll just usually do, one lower body movement, one upper body movement. Sometimes, like for our last workout, we'll do like an SBD day just to kind of practice going over the commands and all those sorts of things. In certain federations, you're also like not allowed to have your own handoff person. So one of the things that, Brynn has been working on is just trying to communicate with whoever is spotting her. So, communication's important, timing's important. And even for adults, like just kind of learning to react to auditory cues versus just pausing or squatting. There's a difference between just pausing by feel, and there's a difference between actually reacting to an auditory command. So I think that's also important. And even for, people that don't want to compete, it's good practice for just kind of training your brain to react to a stimulus. So some, whether it be visual, auditory, tactile, or some combination, I think it's good for your brain. Especially whether you're a youth lifter or a masters lifter, there's a lot of value in kind of working those things in as well. So that's basically kind of it. So like I said, Brynn's going to do a qualifier, and then we're going to kind of train through it. And then she's going to do her first youth nationals coming up soon, which will be in July, which is very exciting stuff. So I think that, it's good to, sometimes kind of focus on just your own personal growth, but I think there's nothing wrong with, kind of seeing where you stack amongst the field. I mean, again, at the end of the day, that's life. I mean, calling a spade, whether it be business, your career, you're going to have competition in life, and I think sometimes it's okay to kind of see where you stack up, and I think that's also a good skill. So there's, just trying to find the appropriate amount of pressure, the appropriate challenge, and just kind of incrementally kind of increasing that hurdle, if you will, over time, I think is a really good skill. So very excited. And again, I think that another kind of thing I'll just kind of leave you guys with, the more kind of inclusive you can be, the more you can kind of involve your family with things in your own physical journey. I think that's going to be very beneficial for a lot of people. So anyway, send Brynn some good vibes. I hope this video helps you. If you guys want to see more of our family training, let me know. But otherwise, until next time, stay strong, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.